beautiful beings. Hi there. Hey guys, tonight we're talking about, I got a big nudge to talk about living in higher consciousness. Many of us are on this planet asking ourselves, what the fuck is going on right now? And the thing is, what's going on is a mirrored reflection of the collective consciousness, which we all have a hook on if we're living in our lower consciousness. So, how can we live at a higher consciousness? Higher consciousness that's closer to what our source energy is, the source of all, the I am, the complete abundance and infinite nature of the I am, of which we are. So, how do we live from there? How do we live from there? How do we live in more peace without fear? How do we live in allowance and trust what's going down here? So, I'm going to get pretty metaphysical on us. Going to get pretty metaphysical on you because the thing is, most people don't want to hear this, but it's kind of what's happening. Let's just own that. It's what's happening. So tonight I'm practicing being an open channel. I'm practicing beingness consciousness, which is we're going to be talking from the collective knowing, which you all, everyone watching, can have access to this. Become an open channel, practice living higher consciousness, and you can be there. And one of the tools I'm going to talk about later is your voice, how your voice can be an amazing tool for higher consciousness. That's really what all my platforms are because my voice has been a journey, has had my back through my whole spiritual awakening. So, how do we live in higher consciousness where we can look at what's happening in front of us in the world? And if we feel triggered by it or we have feelings and emotions about it in any way, that we know that that's just an alarm system. That's not a point to get activated in anger or fear and run with it. Our emotions of anger and fear and judgment and all that kind of stuff of what we're seeing is what's playing out in here. And it's those emotions that give us the indicator that we have belief systems that that make us hooked into the collective field that's creating what's being reflected back to us. And I don't just mean in our families and in our neighborhoods. I mean on a whole globe, whatever you see that's made to be in your awareness is a reflection of where you are feeding the collective vision, collective reality. So, how do we live from a higher perspective? How do we live from a higher consciousness that helps us unhook from that collective? And so, Michael Beckwith talks about four areas or four levels of consciousness. And the first one is the victim consciousness, the second one is the manifesting consciousness. And then it goes to channeling, and then it goes to being. And in beingness consciousness, this is the higher consciousness where life is happening as you. It's not happening to you. So whenever we are looking out into the world and saying, oh my God, it's horrible what's happening to them, we are hanging out in one of the lowest areas of consciousness, saying those people are powerless, life is happening to them. And if we jump on the bandwagon of that consciousness, we are making that disempowerment more real in the collective field. So to live from a higher consciousness and see people as life happening as them, whatever we see in front of us, life is happening as us, which means that in our psyche, there's still this turmoil. There's still this aggression and anger and violence that we're still hooked into. And so it's important for us to heal that deeply, and then not live from these personal perceptions of judgment and victimization. And so, one of the ways that I love to do that is with a voice, because you can practice your voice and see where you're hanging out in consciousness. Because if you start to use your voice and you're like, oh, I don't have a good voice, I wasn't given a good voice, you don't want to hear me, this is a more of a victim consciousness. But if you go and hang out with your voice, like, I'm going to manifest an amazing voice, right? Get into that manifesting power, that empowerment, life happening for me. And then we wanna go into channeling, right? Light language, you can start being like, "Well, I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna be a channel for light. I'm gonna be a channel for, um, some kind of higher consciousness being." And then we know when we get into beingness consciousness, then we start to know that, oh, I'm all those voices. I can be all of it. I can be the voice of source. I can be the voice of Jesus. I can be the voice of a flower. I can be the voice of a dog. I can be the voice of Magdalene. I can be the voice of an Octurian. I can be the voice because I am all of it and life is happening as me. So whether when you practice higher consciousness, you can call it channeling because people understand that term, but what you're doing is you're being. You are being higher consciousness and you are being the voice of a defined reality of a life experience, right? But you can be all of it and you can know all of it. And so your voice can help you become aware of where you are living in consciousness. Hi there. And so if there's anyone over here on Instagram, you're resonating with what I'm saying, let me hear a thumbs up or a heart. If you have a question, let me know. Um, so your voice is this amazing barometer of where you're hanging out in consciousness. So one of the things I do is metaphysically mentor people through voice, right? Not only does your voice have a warmer tone, your voice has more technical ability, but in the process, you're also learning what higher consciousness is, how to release their subconscious, reprogram, how to empower yourself to step into higher consciousness. So your voice is an amazing metaphysical growth tool. And that's what I teach on my platforms. And I have programs called Being Sung, and I have programs called Awakened Voice, Mentoring, and Harmonic Healing Maps. So, one of the things to do is to have an intention. I so one of the intentions I'm going to have is I want to sing out healing tones of source. And then I just do. Sound plus intention equals the outcome. Now, do you need a pure tone to sing light language or to source sing? Not really, because the frequencies will come through the sound, but pure tones and a well-adjusted technical voice is received more easily to the listening ear. So just because my voice has a pure tone to it doesn't make the frequency of source happen. Right? But then it's a kind of a catch-22 because as you grow in your awareness, the tension relaxes out of the body, which releases your voice. The judgment leaves, and you're not singing from judgment anymore, so you don't have those frequencies in your voice. So your voice tends to have more of a pure tone. So one creates the other, but it's not the tone really, it's just the frequency that's riding on the vocal tone, the sound wave, if that makes sense. Um, so, one of the things that you can start to do to release the judgment and release the past so that you can come into the present moment and really live high from a higher consciousness is meditate. Sit with your thoughts until there's no more thoughts. Most people think to meditate is like, well, I can't meditate because my mind's too active. Well, yeah. Sit with that active mind until it's not active. And so that's that first line of defense and first line of resistance when people are like, too much stuff is going on. It's like, yeah, it is going, lots going on in our minds and our psyche. And so just sit with it and don't interact with it. But what's so interesting is that sometimes when we're interacting with it, sometimes we don't realize we're interacting with it. And then you notice that you're interacting with it. And then you pause, let it go, and stop interacting with it. That's the process of meditating. And all of a sudden it stops. All of a sudden the mind stops and it's quiet. And you're in this higher state of consciousness. You're in this bliss state. And maybe it lasts 2 minutes, maybe it lasts 20 minutes. But to say I can't meditate because of my mind's too active, that's a cop out, that's resistance, and that is you not willing to sit with it. So Rumi has a poem called The Guest House. And The Guest House is a poem that says, invite it all in, right? Invite your shadow in as if it were a guest. Sit it down for tea and just sit with it. That's all you're doing with meditating, right? And so after meditation, you sit with the quietness and all of a sudden you've reached your higher self, your higher consciousness. It's a lovely time to let out a tone. And you just have that higher consciousness with you all day long because you've marinated the voice through your whole field with it. But then the voice can be used as a tool the other way too. So you can meditate, get to the end, and then make a sound, or you can make a sound, quiet the mind, and meditate more easily. So they can be used both ways. The voice can be used as an emptying tool so that you empty the mind, empty the auric field of denser energy so that you can actually sit. So in yoga, the reason for asana or physical postures is to be able to sit in meditation longer. Well, same thing. The voice can act as the same thing. Use your voice to empty the density, quiet the mind, and then all of a sudden you can sit in meditation longer. Now, the voice is this amazing tool for um, for not only detoxing but building awareness as well. Um, Shoot, I had a thought. Let me see where it's going to go. Hello, Ramal Rhoda. Ramal Rhoda. Hello there. Hello, hello. Um, Shoot, what was I going to say? Yeah, so the voice can be an emptying process. So you can empty out the density in the auric field, empty out the density in the mind, and all of a sudden there you are. So there's tons of ways to use to use your voice as an awakening tool to live in higher consciousness more of the time. Now, my goal has always been to live in higher consciousness more of the time. And I realize that's not everyone's that's not everyone's goal. Let me know, is it your goal to live in higher consciousness? And what does that mean? It means that we still are living on this human realm where there's a bit of separation, but the consciousness means that there's you, your human self, and you, your source self, and you're aware of it, right? So the higher consciousness is that you are remembering yourself from a quantum metaphysical perspective. And yes, we're still living in the polarized human form, but in higher consciousness, we know and we remember what we truly are, which is wholeness, which is love, which is the source. We are source energy walking around in these bodies having this experience. And the voice helps you get there. Oh, we have someone here. Hi there. And so if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, let me know. So how you function, like higher consciousness, there's a whole spectrum, right? There's a whole spectrum because you can be in higher consciousness in the victim consciousness. You can be in higher consciousness in manifesting consciousness. You can be in higher consciousness in, right? You have you have this spectrum, right? You have this spectrum in victim consciousness. You might be in the higher part of victim consciousness. All of a sudden, then you head to manifesting consciousness, and you might rise up to the higher consciousness in that. And then you head to channeling consciousness, and you might rise up to that, and then beingness consciousness. So wherever you are, you're probably going to have some different perspectives. Now, I have a lot of people in my lives that talk about spirit guides, and I've never been that aligned with spirit guides. I have been taught that you do want to expand your spirit guides. You want to release them as you raise your consciousness. But what I just heard on a live was that there's no from a channel that was channeling supposedly source is that there are no spirit guides. It's just your beingness that's guiding you because you are all knowing. But if you're not willing to step into that level of consciousness, then yes, you would have to call that beingness and the complete knowing something outside of yourself, right? You would have to call it something you're channeling or something that you're manifesting because you're not at the consciousness to accept that it is you, right? Same thing with light language. When you're singing light language, you're not at the consciousness yet to accept that it is you who's singing the light frequencies, that it doesn't have to be a off planet alien light being. It doesn't have to be something from the elemental world like um, a mermaid or dragon. It doesn't have to be. What if it doesn't have to be anything but you? And that's enough. See, we have this problem with enoughness as a human being. And so to claim that we could sing frequencies that could heal people and just own that. Well, that's pretty grandiose, isn't it? But it's the truth. And as you step into the higher consciousness of beingness, you start to own that, well, I'm just being me and these sounds I'm just being me, which is enough because it's source and it's the I am presence. And that is the simplest, most profound thing you can possibly be. And and purest thing you can be. And you're bringing it through your voice and you're singing it for yourself and for people. And it's funny, the higher in consciousness you get, the simpler it all is. The lower in consciousness it gets, the mind has to make everything a grand story with all these different levels and all that kind of stuff. But what if that's practicing at a lower consciousness, right? Once you are willing to claim the power of your beingness, you're living in higher consciousness. And your voice helps you because once you're willing to sing out healing tones, knowing that you are singing from the I am presence, and that is profound and it is enough, and it's okay to make the claim that you are singing from source as source. And this is the road that your voice shows you. Now, sometimes we need some support on this journey, right? That's why I do awakened voice sessions. I do metaphysical mentoring. I do a program called Be Sung, Mastering the Art of Being Sung. because we have so much we have so much in our psyche that says that you can't be powerful. You're not enough to have that much power. You're not enough to be truly create. You're not enough to be the voice of the I am. You need to channel it from something else. Think about that. Let me channel it from some hearsay, something that's way out there that's like we're going to trust to come through us instead of just be it, right? Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on this? I think I have a few people over here. You, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are source energy. We're the I am presence. We're the Holy Spirit. We're the divine essence of the wholeness of the divine masculine and feminine. We are it. So, are you willing to claim it and own it and be it? And by doing that, you claim your higher consciousness. You claim your higher consciousness. All right, that's what I got for tonight. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow. We have lives that are happening twice a week and once a month. Definitely join us for our One Love Alignment Sundays on the first Sunday of the month for an astrology update and metaphysical talk about how to navigate these astrological energies and a sound activation to align you with one love consciousness, which is your higher consciousness. Mhm.